Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time this voice reaches you over the airwaves. We are having our retro for KubeCon contributor Kubernetes Contributor Summit North America 2023. Yes, happy time of day. Thank you, Noah. Um, yeah, we have some notes that we already have in the doc. Um, I'm gonna share those as we work down the notes. Uh, when I find the tab, I will share those. We'll work down what's already there, and then we'll have discussions about it as we go. All right. Leave. Yes. All right. Crushing it. All right, so let's start with the things that went well. Let's pat ourselves on the back for a little bit. Um, the registration was open early, and the registration on site absolutely made things a lot easier. It was interesting trying to direct folks, I think, because like the registration was visible through the window outside. So people could see from not the contributor summit that there was a KubeCon registration and came over to register when it was meant to just be for the summit, but that's just a layout thing that you can't really plan for, you know. Um, does anybody have anything to say about those first two things? Early CFP
Just
registration?
a funny note is we had a bunch of the people coming from the other conference to
Yeah,
our to the Reddit points.
yeah, yeah, that was a lot. All right. Um, good attendance, including at most of the sessions. That's good because I know part of the difficulty was that things were so spread out and it wasn't entirely clear where one conference began and the other one ended and how to get across the sky bridge
Yeah.
to go to various places. So I'm glad that attendance wasn't
Yeah,
severely
I was just
impacted by that.
yeah, I was just noticing. I mean, I was actually comparing it in terms of spread out with San Diego, where like starting in the afternoon in San Diego, we had a ton of people at the KCS, but they pretty much all hung out in the lobby area.
Yeah,
And we had sessions that were entirely unattended, and that didn't happen this time.
yeah. Um, Speaking of the like hallway track, I think it would be useful if we had like a designated area for it because it being outside of the main room or some of the other rooms where folks are trying to talk, it's difficult to hear in the back the competing voices. So I think that a hallway track space
Yeah.
would be
I'll,
good.
Yeah.
I'll put that
Um,
at the bottom. I mean, I will say realistically, that's only going to work if that's where the coffee is.
Yeah. We have in the past tried to use whatever the meals room is as also the hangouts room, but
yeah,
to Josh's point, if people are gravitating towards something outside that room, it's not gonna
Yeah.
facilitate being in that room.
that's
We,
super
we it doesn't matter how much we designate it. We just have to make sure strategic placement of coffee and things like that to
yeah.
help.
And then we'll have a day of ops role that's like, hey, you're in charge of directing folks to the hallway track.
Yeah.
All right. The help wanted shout outs were very popular and super useful, and we should do that again. Thank you, Noah, for that. We'll formalize it a little better next time. But yeah, I wonder if there's any like impact of it. I know people enjoyed being able to say I need help, but it'll be good to know if those pleas were answered, you know.
I think that will tie to making things a little more actionable, which is
Yeah,
mentioned farther down in the list.
fair enough. Yeah. All right.
To throw out that I did get 2 volunteers from that. So thank
That's
you.
sick. Aid has come to Gondor. All right. Around the social, the poetry slam went well and was entertaining. Okay. The space was really good, enough space for folks to get around and very iconic. Having live music was great. And maybe we're gonna have a cornhole tournament between SIGs. Am I
Yeah, well,
capturing that?
I don't know who it was, but we ended up with two teams playing cornhole against each other.
Okay.
Um, which was nice, because again, we just sort of threw those things out there. I didn't know that we would necessarily get anyone for the poetry slam,
Yeah.
which was Nitsch's idea, and we got people, And I didn't know that necessarily people would actually play the cornhole, but they did. So those become ideas we can throw in the mix for the next social. As Natalie points out, there wasn't really things to, once the poetry slam was over, there weren't really things to do for people who wanted to hang around inside.
It's just Natalie, Josh.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I've been pronouncing it like it's Italian.
Okay, so we need more activities for folks to do. And yeah, maybe we have like, how many mugs do you have in the kiln? Do you want to make a set of mugs for the cornhole team that wins the SIG or working group?
Oh, if I have enough time, actually, I should make them like little trophies. Rather than just mugs. That's easy enough. Plus, I can probably get Xander. Actually, since Xander is co-leading, probably get him to make a couple. So
perfect. All right. Anybody have anything else they want to say about the social? The good things. We'll go on the not so well things in a bit.
Yeah.
I have one thing that I was thinking of saying that is kind of both. I thought the live music was loud, so it was nice having an outdoor space where you could kind of get away from the loud music. So I think the ultimate takeaway there, though, really is it's nice to have options for loudness.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we are definitely like the room itself made it very difficult for like
very
reasonable volume control and not being able to plug into their system, unfortunately, because their system is very tuned to the space, it's unfortunate. And yes, it is very good that we had options throughout the space, because there were some people that like the music's too quiet and other people like the music's too loud. So it's like, how do you find that balance? And part of it was struggling against the venue. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Just to reiterate something that we've said before, having it super close and super walkable is a positive thing.
Yeah. Super close, super walkable. Absolutely. All right.
Oh, one other thing I'll say about the social is that honestly, actually, unlike every previous year I can think of, we didn't have people trying to crash the social. So
what does that say about the social?
Probably means that there were other major parties competing with it.
Or maybe Day of Ops was so good at making sure people could get in.
We had really good bouncers.
I think also the location, like when you walked up to it, there was like a sign out front that said like the space is reserved, and then people didn't really hang out in the entryway, so it didn't look like, oh cool, there's something going on over there. When I walked up to it, I was like, is this it?
Yeah, I was just amazed because like in Valencia we had at least 10 people try to crash the social, even though you had to take a cab to get there.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's see how it is at Paris.
We did also have a lot more people actually, requesting to bring the guests. So I think, it's starting to click in the group at large that you can't just show up with randos.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely an issue of some folks who had shown up to Summit and had not registered and didn't realize they needed to register separately for social. So that's still maybe some messaging that we can work on for next time. All right. Cool. Any other good things about the social? All right.
Oh, sorry. I would just add it ended at a good time because, as it was already noted, there's a lot of other parties and things going on, and so I think like the size of the space and the timing meant that people felt they could go to these other events that we are always going to clash with. I think that's something that we just have to accept.
Yeah, there's a very natural tail to the event where folks were leaving and leaving and leaving. By the time that it was time to actually leave, like everybody was already gone.
Yeah, and for those of us older folks, it meant that we could actually go back to our hotels and go to bed. So
yeah,
that was actually a question I have, since I'm going to start looking for venues in Paris, did we like the length? Because I know
Yes.
previously we had done 2 hours. This one was
Yeah.
3 hours. Do we want to stick with 3 hours?
I
He
think
was
3 hours
good.
is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good. Perfect. Thank
Yeah,
you.
3 hours with the possibility to like cut it if it does need to end early, right? Like people can just
Yeah.
leave. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just easier for me to contract up head 3 hours. So
Yeah.
I
3
think
hours.
that that also depends on the planning and the intensity of the space. So, like 3 hours of what was happening in Detroit would have been a little too intense for a lot of people, but 3 hours of this space was fantastic.
perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I will keep that in mind.
Yeah. And I will send my venue requests early. All right. It worked to repurpose the door warden to lobby person since we didn't have so much need for a greeter after 9:30 a.m.
Yeah, I added that. We don't need to discuss that. I just
Okay.
putting it in for the next team.
Having the schedule printed was handy. Kudos to Natalie for doing that. Good job, Natalie. The Meet the Kubernetes contributor community was well attended in comparison to past years. The name change seemed to help. SIG chairs and leads were really proactive in getting their names on the board. We didn't have to do much to tell people about where to go. And the super secret stickers seemed to be popular with contributors. But ... see, not so well. Okay. Great. Anybody have any other comments about the Meet the Kubernetes contributor community that they want to add under the good things?
We also had a big enough room for it, which we don't always.
Yeah, I know in the past we've had to share a lot of tables, and now it seemed like people were sharing tables out of desire and not necessarily out of necessity. So I think, it was a good space, a good size space.
Thank you for getting everything going there, Brienne.
Yeah, thanks so much. And it wasn't also like super hard to find, which it has been in other years. So I think that's good. And I think as well, just having like the venue itself had staff there that would show you where things were on the map, because the venue was kind of confusing, and having them to direct you was great.
I want to mention as well, it was great to have a code of conduct table at the meet and greet MKCC. The not so well is that no one knew that the table was there, including the COCC members. So yeah, up and down.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And then having the main session space be table style seating was nice for the all attendee sessions and for the steering AMA. Not sure how this was for individual sessions.
It was fine for individual sessions. I attended a couple in that room.
Okay.
I would actually say, and I don't know if this went in here right, which is, and I need to make sure this goes in the bottom, which is that, if we have the opportunity, which we did not with this space, it would be nice to have a bunch of the breakout rooms reset for more of a discussion layout. And I know we discussed that for this venue, and it was not an option that was available to us, but it's something we should always ask for. So, because it works better for a lot of kinds of sessions to have it more discussion layout. It's just that, we don't always get the opportunity. So
yeah. And I wanted to add, we had some rock star leads this time. I'm very, very grateful that we had the team that we had. There's everybody was sort of picking up slack. There's very little like extra work that I had to pick up to do. I know Josh and I and Xander stepped in for the social to help make sure that went well. But yeah, for the most part, folks kept it tight, and that was amazing. So thank you so much. All right. Ray, you're here. Did you want to add anything about awards that went well?
Let me see. For awards, I think we were able to get the receive the awardees from SIG co-chairs easier this time around. I can't speak to that 100%. That was Joseph and Xander. But it wasn't brought up to me like if there was any issues that we've had in the past. Sometimes we've had to ask SIG co-chairs several times to get awardees. And that's pretty much it. I think that's the main points. Also having kind of pushing or asking attendees to have the award shipped instead of shipped to the venue. I think that's something that we should think about moving forward as well, because things happen. like in Detroit, the awards weren't shipped, the proper awards weren't shipped to the venue. I think having the awards pretty much shipped directly to the awardees is also something to do from now on as well, just to remove that step, having it shipped to the venue.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Just from my side, in the timing and timelines, I know in Detroit we got to the point where it's like, okay, here's the dead end, like we have to order them today or it's not happening. So yeah, I think just giving us that extra leeway and time definitely helps as well.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to have like one or just like something that we can like hold up, so that way we missed a lot of the people weren't standing up, and it just seemed like we're reading off the name. So it'd be kind of nice just to have that thing, or like especially for people to get their like photo op or whatever, because that was like if you go back and look at some of the older photos, that was something like people really liked.
We had some great photos from the past awards from people coming up to get to take a picture. I think we should have done that, but I'll save that for the next.
I think if we have like some small token that we could give, like a little pin or a patch, I know that means that we're gonna have to make a bunch for the past awardees that want to get theirs. But I think that would be super useful. Oh, a pen, an ink pen. All right. Whatever it may be, because I think that as well as having something to show, something that you have at the conference, I think is really nice. I think that we budgeted an amount of time, and like the amount that we had would not have been sufficient if folks were standing up to walk up to the front and take pictures, because we sort of ran up against the photo time. When we finished with the awards, we thought we were going to have a bunch extra and we didn't. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind about adding another element. Means that for schedule, we need to budget sufficient time for it.
Yeah, so as a note, we budgeted 45 minutes for awards because we assumed that the memorial would also take place. So that was the two items together. With the memorial taken out, we left that 45 minutes, and as Nigel mentioned, we were at 30 minutes before the end, at least. So I think also budgeting that time, and if we finish extra, that makes sense on the ops side.
All right. I'm just looking at the comments because I have not been looking at the chat since then.
A few more notes. Using the form for the SIG leads to fill out, I think that was better off than having to ping SIG leads on Slack with group messages or private messages. I think that worked out well for this time. And that was an opportunity. That was from the last retro as well. So I'm glad we implemented that.
Yeah.
The only thing I think what was needed was just more communication with them, just because like letting them know to fill. Sorry, this jumps into things that didn't go so well. But it was just like,
we could move on to the next section because that's right in there.
Yeah. All right. So things that did not go so well. No clear indicator of who owns the creation of the site. It had formerly been the leads or whoever has been the first to publish something at Roger Comms.
Yeah, it's not just creation. So this links to a recommendation I have under things to do differently next time.
Yeah.
Which is, I think we need an assigned website role. I think we need an actual role and a person who owns the website, and that's their job. Because honestly, over the last 3 KCSs, the website has never been complete and up to date. And I think the idea that it's going to be a shared responsibility is clearly not working. So
okay, that makes sense. All right. And then the links in registration confirmation email were wrong. We need to check this when testing the reg in the future. Yeah, I think they linked out to Open Source Summit or something like that.
Yeah, that was, we looked at the content of the message, but did not test the links of the content.
Okay. Most handbooks, including the awards handbook, don't prescribe communications channels. As such, awards requests didn't go out by email until it was already late.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not just awards. Awards was the first one where this came up, but I was looking at some of the handbooks, and most of them, like, they say that you have to send out a message about X, but they don't say where you have to send that message. And a lot of this comes down to one of the things we ran into this contributor summit overall is that for every previous contributor summit, the person we've had managing comms has been a lead for the comms subproject. And this is the first time we've been trying to do it with somebody who's just a comms volunteer. And it turns out there was a lot about comms that was just not written down.
Yeah.
And we found out most of it the hard way. So but I'm saying for the handbooks, as much as we can audit the handbooks, right? Each role handbook should say where you're supposed to send stuff, and then the comms handbook should also have a where you're supposed to send stuff so that we don't miss anything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so maybe we have like a jam session to like work on the handbooks at some point in the next like couple of weeks. We can all just hop on a call and talk about it, and make sure that our comms are up to snuff. And yeah, so based on there being like a large gap in what we expected, great job to the comms lead for doing as well under the circumstances.
I had planned to update the handbook after the event because of the extra day of ops roles that were just not defined until we performed them at the event. So I'm happy to do it in the jam session, and I can do it like separately as I was going to anyway, and we can kind of edit onto that as well for the ops stuff.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
I also wanted to add one thing. I think when the email was sent for the speaker acceptance for the contributor summit, emails were sent to each person whether they were selected or not. So it was sent to like the whole group, to all the people that were present in a particular group. I think from the next time we can make this thing better, such that the email should be sent, speaker acceptance email should be sent out to only those people who actually have got their talk accepted in the contributor summit, rather than to everyone who is present in the summit staff group.
I think there was an issue as well with multi-speaker slots where only like one speaker got the email and not all of the speakers on the submission. And so that's another thing that we have to figure out.
And I would say for speakers, there's a suggestion down below and things to do next time for attendees. But I think for speakers, we should also look at creating a Google group instead of doing this ad hoc, because the problem with doing it ad hoc is trying to send it from the summit team works poorly, given the way that Google emails work. And if we just add all of the speakers to a Google group, it gets a lot easier to send them stuff.
There is a fix for that in sending out as summit team, but it's complicated because the Google Groups API doesn't support that particular flag being set. So we can set it in the group, but I don't know if it's going to stick around if we make updates to the group in the YAML and K.io.
Yeah.
If we're going to create a Google group, I would say we'd need to put it in the handbook under whatever, if it's content or not, that at the end of the summit, that group needs to be purged that we can reuse it.
Yeah, keeping it up to date. You know.
Actually, I would say like we don't necessarily purge it right after the summit, but purge it when we are getting the next staff on ramp in case there's follow-up items just from like I forgot something, or you know what I mean.
Why would we purge the group rather than create a group called something like KCSNA 23 speakers?
Yeah, I just
I
feel
would
like
just create a new group each time around.
Yeah, but then we have like
it's a lot
all
of
these new
process.
groups all the time.
Yeah. No, we delete the old groups.
I think that keeping a record of comms is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to just delete everything.
Yeah, we could even put in the sense that you know, we can note each time, hey, you all, this is the last communication as speakers from Contributor Summit that you'll get, etc. For that year. We're about to purge this group to reuse for the following year.
There we
and
go.
That can be again the task before that's
It-
done by content or comms or whoever would own that task.
If you're interested in submitting an item to the next CFP, please click this link.
Yeah.
Etc. Yeah, we can have the whole like kind of boilerplate there of what would happen, and that's like the last task of that person. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I support that. All right. Moving down to content. Accidentally published schedule before sending out acceptance emails. Yeah, definitely got some emails about that. Like, hey, I see I'm on the schedule, but nobody told me my talk is in yet. And we need to adjust the CFP form to match the Schedule import form for the fields that we're missing. And then we should add scheduling requests to the form because there were a lot of people who were asking for things to get moved around.
Actually, funny bit about the acceptances. Since Summit team was basically CC'd on the acceptances, I didn't realize that I was actually had a proposal in the schedule until the day of the summit. Because I assumed I was getting the notification because I was CC'd to Summit team.
Yeah, I definitely made that mistake about the awards as well.
Yeah.
All right. For comms.
Can we make a note on the scheduling, the schedule changes? So yeah, what didn't go great was that, and I know this was fixed after the fact, but the schedule changes was only updated in Shed first and not in our planning doc. And for like ops stuff, we needed it to come in the doc as well. So that would just be like do that definitely like for next time. And then this might not be a popular opinion, but why do we accept so many schedule changes? Like, can we just say no? Because there was a lot this time, I feel like.
Well, it also ties into us being directly opposite all the other colo events and people having other coordination where it's, oh, I'm really in for this, but also my job depends on me being somewhere else at a certain point in time.
Oh no, totally. And I think all of those things like were obvious schedule changes to make, but there was a couple of like, well, we're interested in this talk too, so please change it so we can attend both, but we're at the summit. And it's like that felt like a lot.
I hear you. And like with us not recording the rooms, like ordinarily would be like, hey, check out the recording, you know, but like without that there, then
I like Arno's suggestion of we set a deadline for you must get schedule. Like if you want your schedule changed, it has to come in like, you know, the week before or something like that.
Yeah.
The other thing is like, if it helps on the ops side, Sketch can fully export a CSV or XLS with all the session information and changes and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's good, and that's going to be easy to copy and paste. But I know, like for Brienne's sake, for example, we had everything in the one planning doc, including ops staffing. So like that would still be something we'd keep in that one place.
Okay. Moving on to comms. All right. Process of one, communication between speaker and summit teams needs to be defined. CC to summit team is not good. I don't understand this one.
I think this just centers around the comments that were brought up earlier about how we're handling mails out.
Okay. And then yes, got it. I see now. Okay. Get mails from all the speakers involved in a talk and send mail to each one. Yes, yes. Better create a Google group. All right, perfect. All right. The annual confusion on speaker pass does not equal KubeCon pass, like regular colos.
Yeah, there's
So,
a lot of confusion around that one. This is the first time we've really had confusion around it.
I feel like there was that in Amsterdam as well, but
there was a little bit. So I'm going to bring up something I bring up a lot, and that is that having separate badging completely will solve a lot of these issues.
I don't think it's going to happen just because a lot of times the summit is essentially behind the main CNCF space. So like the people that are watching the door that are contractors and looking for badges, like they are the first gatekeepers.
yeah.
I mean,
I will say also it saves KCS a lot of money by being able to use the same badges as the main KubeCon. So, I mean, we're talking probably thousands of dollars by us using the same badges and the same registration setup. So that's the main reason.
It saves us a lot of money, but we have at every session had some people who want to attend just the summit and are not going to KubeCon.
So
we don't have a way to handle that.
That I think we actually talked about that. That came up yesterday in the chair and TL meeting too. We do sort of have an unofficial way of doing it, but like very much limited in the capacity that we can do that.
Yeah, I just why can't we give contributor summit speakers KubeCon passes?
Be a larger CNCF team discussion. I don't know what the history and reasoning behind that is. I know this part of the reason it was even more confusing this time. This was actually the first time co-located speakers received a full KubeCon pass. So yeah, normally, so prior events, co-located speakers even had to purchase their pass for KubeCon. So it's kind of a work in progress still. It's definitely something I can bring up to the CNCF team and see if they would be open to that idea. Because I think it is becoming a more, common issue amongst the larger KubeCon event as a whole as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And we occupy a difficult space of we are a colo, but we are not a colo.
Yeah.
We've tried to clear that, but like we are not listed on the main page at all. And like all our contact information, all that is to summit team. And like we don't use the LF branding, you know what I mean?
Or we can say like explicit comps. I know that was one comment.
Like in the FAQ, in the sign up or anything like that, depending on however things work with the greater CNCF team.
Yeah. And then kind of adding on to that too for ops, I will add that there were some speakers who on their badging didn't have they were registered for the summit, and I don't know if that was a mistake that was just happening from like printout or that speakers weren't registered. And so I think we need to make doubly sure that speakers are registered for the summit so that on the ops side, it's easy to identify them and not accidentally kick them out, which I absolutely almost did.
Other thing on that is, there were also people that were added as speakers late, like the speaker invited other people to be speakers on it that were not org members at all and had like no real affiliation with the project.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it's mostly just being very explicit in our communication.
Yeah. So explicit comes to see that this is not get you KubeCon pass and speakers with limited exception should be org members. Okay. All right. Mentoring across the
Yeah,
the time zone divide.
we had two roles where the person performing the role was new to it. And we basically had somebody in the US trying to mentor somebody who was living in India.
Yeah.
And it really did not work because of the limited overlap in awake hours. I think it's something we need to take into account when setting up sort of mentoring shadow relationships in the future. It'll be easier for Europe.
Yeah, that's Puya's point there, that the time zone will be easier with EU.
But I mean, like, say for the social, I ended up stepping in and just doing a bunch of stuff because the day cycle between my coaching Nitish on it and then him drafting something and then my reviewing it was just taking way too long because it had to take several days. And then it meant that, Nitish didn't get a chance to really learn the job.
Right.
I will say, as a contrary point, a completely async role with mentoring would absolutely work, and I think comms is a great example of that.
Yeah. So I think that for the lead, something to be aware of when, like, for the organizer, how we select the leads, especially with the NA roles, we have to be a little bit more careful about, have they shadowed before? Do they have the experience in this area, and are we going to have capacity to mentor and pick up the slack that's left? This time, Josh is mentioning with the social, where we did have to do a lot to make sure that everything went okay. All right. Did not have enough volunteers to cover all ops positions. Natalie, was this yours?
No, but I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I think I threw that on there, right? Which we just didn't have quite enough ops volunteers.
Yeah, and I think that just came from, I added it in what we can do better. Like, on a map, it didn't look that big, the space, right? Like, we just did not know what we were dealing with until we did the walkthrough the day before, that we would need so many people ushering versus actually being in rooms, which I chose to repurpose the stuff for that, for that purpose, so that people found places. And I think, mentioning just, being able to do like a video walkthrough of a place to see it earlier, understanding the size wise for ops in the future could be one way.
And then there was a little bit of a question of what the room monitor's role was, and if emceeing fell under that, and if we even want a role of an MC, like, to bring up or to go between the different speakers, or even to, like, get the speakers prepped, like, with AV before each of the talks, that sort of thing. First of all, do we want an MC role?
I mean, I showed up to MC the main room and it was completely unnecessary. I didn't need to be there.
Okay. So
I was about to say, the AV stuff would only count for the recorded spaces. I don't think we need any of that in the other spaces that aren't recorded, obviously.
The one thing that I don't know if it's reminding the speakers or doing whatever, a lot of people wound up not taking notes and using the shared drive this time around versus Amsterdam, which had a lot more people taking notes.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if it's just like
So in terms of the space, by the way, I had a suggestion because it's something that we've had CNCF staff do on a previous occasion, which is when they go to inspect the space, when they're booking the space, that they actually do a video walkthrough.
Yeah.
And that helps us get a lot better idea of what the space is actually like than any number of diagrams can.
Yeah, that was something in the what we can do better as a comment that I added like weeks before walkthrough, like recorded or something. So completely agree with Josh for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna start picking up the pace a little bit because we're gonna hit time otherwise. All right. We didn't clearly let people know there'd be no snacks before the opening session. Several people showed up having zero breakfast. We should spell out on the schedule whether or not breakfast is provided. And that was one note that I got from somebody as well. I was like, oh, what would have made the contributor summit better for you? And they're like, nothing. It was great. And they're like, wait, breakfast. So maybe that's something that we can talk about for next time.
Yeah, I think we left it off the meal off the schedule, in Sketch, but that doesn't click with people.
Yeah. All right. Controlling the space and limiting it to KCS attendees wasn't really possible because the hall was being used for other events and egress. That's true. It became less of an issue like in the evening or the afternoon, but definitely around lunch. It was like a big deal because we had incredible lunch. Thank you, Brian, for setting that up.
Yeah, add that to things that went well.
Yeah. Somebody could put that up there. Lunch was awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to do that.
All right. It was very hard to get any idea before we got to the venue how large the space actually was and how far it was to walk to the breakouts. Since your staff should maybe do a walkthrough video when inspecting the space so we can have a better idea of what it was really like. We just discussed this one. So yeah, that would be great. Or maybe like CNCF and Arno, since you're local, y'all could link up and do the walkthrough, make a video, and then you have an idea. Or especially if we have like a local Paris obsolete as well. That might be helpful. All right, so back to Laura and MKCC. The sticks for guests didn't seem to be as much of a draw. Not sure if we're at saturation with this audience or if we're having trouble being heard, but that experiment didn't work out as well as hoped. Maybe earlier notes / better swag for the Meet the Kubernetes contributor community. It got scheduled at the same time as multiple maintainer sessions and a couple of tag meet and greets. It's difficult to be visible enough as it is, but it's a lot harder when people with people who help staff the event, have to make decisions about what to do. Yeah. Some people brought lunch for people who didn't know to do that or who couldn't get to the lunch tables before going to set up. It's a long walk back to grab something. I don't know if it's possible for us to have like a lunch area for this event, Pie in the Sky. I think this would be good as well for getting new folks to come in, where like if we just had like an outpost of lunches there, maybe a logistical nightmare, but Pie in the Sky, that would be awesome. What do you think of that, Brian? Is that a non-starter?
That's going to definitely be a question for our F&B lead for KubeCon to see if that's possible.
Okay.
I would have to, talk with them and see.
Okay. I don't want to skip over the other thing, which is something for us to talk to the CNCF people who are in charge of the overall KubeCon schedule about.
Yeah.
They've gotten to this habit of putting sort of all of the committee stuff on Thursday. And the problem with that is a lot of the same people are leading the various events that they're scheduling that are conflicting.
Yeah.
They don't sort of look for conflicts the same way they would for scheduled talks. So I think some of the committee stuff needs to be moved to Wednesday day one. Some of the committee stuff needs to be moved to day 2 or even day 1. That could be the tag stuff. It could be MKCC could be on day 2. But it needs to not all be on Thursday around lunchtime, which is what's been happening.
Yeah. I hear that.
So it's mentioned later in the things we could change section, but there's a suggestion that could we move the Meet the Kubernetes contributor community event to the expo floor like the tag meet and greet was this time. I didn't know that was there, but I'm guessing it would be like a have it in the area where lunch is. It would probably also help with getting more attention on it.
The trick would be, how would we necessarily reserve the tables?
And
put things on them to be like, this is reserved for the Kubernetes meet and greet. I don't know how well that would work, but maybe someone who was involved with the tag meet and greet can tell us how that was done last time.
It also might be limited depending on the venue.
Yeah. I'm curious as well, for the folks who are still like masking at the event, how comfortable they would feel being on the show floor Whereas like being in sort of a smaller space, with like fewer people maybe is appealing.
I would not have found it different. I mean,
Okay.
there were 100 people in the MKCC room.
All right.
At that point, the difference between 100 people and 1,000 people is not really a difference in risk.
All right. Moving on to the adding the list of awardees to the contributor site is missing from the playbook. So we should note that on our
Yeah,
playbook.
I think somebody's opened a PR already.
Perfect. Overlap of colos with the contributor summit. Yeah, this is a really tough one.
Oh, this also came up in SIG TLs, and a lot of it comes down to whether KubeCon is scheduled for Tuesday through Thursday or whether it's scheduled for Wednesday through Friday. And a lot of that depends on the general board. So right now, Paris is Wednesday through Friday, and that means that the colo stuff is going to be more spread out across Monday and Tuesday, and we're going to have less conflicts.
I think colos are only Tuesday.
Yeah, colos are only
Okay.
Tuesday. Main conference is Wednesday through Friday.
Okay,
Yeah, I was
so
about to say they're not gonna. It's very unlikely they would book the space for an extra day for just a couple of colos only.
Official colos.
Can
The thing
we
is that
put
the
in-
sponsor colos tend to be on the Monday.
Yeah,
So it does spread
So
it out.
I believe
but
they are
weirdly.
pushing, same for Chicago. They actually pushed for all sponsored colos to be located on co-location day. So
Okay.
again, they're aiming for them to all be on Tuesday for Paris. So all
Right.
co-located events should be on Tuesday. Wednesday through Friday is the main conference. And we are looking at doing KCS on Monday because
sick.
we're going to be off-site. Yeah, so we will be off-site, and that will allow attendees to still attend all co-located events this way.
Cool. Yay.
So, thank you.
Yeah, and so the question is basically if we want that sort of same arrangement for Salt Lake City, then our various general board reps need to ask for it, as I understand it.
It's too late for Salt Lake City.
It is? Okay.
It would be like it might even be too late for 2024. The
Salt Lake City is 2024.
Or 2025, I'm sorry. Just with how long things are booked.
Yeah, up until 2028, I've heard we've basically got bookings.
Yeah, we have all of our contracts signed through 2028 at this point.
Oh,
so
awesome. And where were those again?
I don't know. You're gonna have to wait and find out.
Yeah.
So the that's the big thing is like, Bran, can you at least tell us for the contracts that are through 2028, is it all EU is Tuesday through Friday and US Monday through Thursday, or is there some flexibility there?
No, I believe so how they do our contracts, we actually sign for basically a 2-week period. So we have a 2-week block signed for. That doesn't mean we necessarily have all of our exact dates figured out all the way through 2028 yet. We're still kind of playing around since, this whole 4-day scheduling is kind of new. And so we're still taking in feedback from other events and seeing, what attendees are saying. So far, it's been very well received. So I think they are probably planning to move forward with this. But again, it's nothing set in stone yet.
With all of them stuck Monday through Thursday?
No, I believe the plan will be Tuesday through Friday. That seems to be what most people prefer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then that will allow for, events like KCS or any other events to be held on Monday for people that want to do that, so that they still, because that's been a lot of the feedback is people want to still be able to attend co-located events as well.
Yeah. The other big thing, putting my Google hat on as a vendor, like I even, if we're doing a event, not necessarily on site with the KubeCon, but at, an offsite location, Monday is a great day to do it and not have it clash with everything else.
Yeah.
This is also beyond, it's another carrot for, customer roundtables and various other things.
All right.
Google hat off.
5 minutes left. Things to keep or change for next time. And the reg form, when asking for GitHub handle, make it clear this should not use URL I haven't added at the beginning, just a text. Next time, consider adding registrants to a private group for notifications. All right. Comms playbook desperately needs more instructions and info. We're going to resolve that with a jam. All handbooks need to specifically spell out what comms channels to use for specific communications. Also handling in the jam. Added an entry to the FAQ to state outright that KCS is not a KubeCon colon, does not get a regular speaker pass. We had that discussion earlier, as well as the separate badging. A role for website. Sounds like there was a lot of +1s for that. Printing 5 to 1 minute cards for moderators. Okay. That sounds like something that is very manageable.
It's something I think of every KCS, like on the day of when it's too late.
Okay. Oh, well, here, I'll just bold this one.
Yeah.
And we'll add it to the ops playbook.
Yeah.
All right. Add some optional ops roles based on space requirements. Redirector. Yep. Timekeeper, noisemaker, bell to announce the start of sessions.
On the bell topic, Brienne, can you buy a bell and just keep it?
Yeah, so I actually added that to my list of things to purchase for the KCS.
Like a cowbell?
It's just a chime bell basically that you can kind of walk around and make noise with, so people know it's time to move in.
We need a contributor summit crier with a bell, just like
yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
KCS
Yes,
crier. That's a roll
on
under
my
ops.
list.
Let's go.
New DevOps roll done.
Long as it's not me, I'm fine. I used to have to do that at my previous event job, and people would be like, "Oh, you're so good at that." And I was like, "Don't talk to me." This is embarrassing.
Require all summit staff to take at least one op shift during KCS. Okay. Controversial, but let's get it in. Is there a way to preserve a copy of the schedule? There's no way to look at the old schedule for KCS because eventually the sched entry expires. And I think having that planning doc, I guess, in line, the spreadsheet in line will allow us to do that.
Yeah, and the basic problem is that, like, if I want to look at how we scheduled things in Detroit, for example, I have to hunt down who owns the spreadsheet that had the original schedule on it. It's just not saved anywhere that is easily referenceable.
Makes sense. All right. For MKCC, it'd be really helpful to have another hand or two to set things up. So let's add some roles there for setup. All right. Oh,
I can still access the old schedule. Sorry, Josh.
Okay, I was looking at one of the schedules and I could not. Sched wouldn't load, and I assumed it just expired.
Okay, if you look back to 2021, we did not have Sched for that in general, but we did start in 2022, and that's when I can see everything.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Door greeter should be helpful as backup. Conversations with door can be super short. I'm looking for SIG foo. All right. Awesome. And then can we get moved into the expo floor, kind of like the tag meet and greet? Okay. And avoiding a double booking. All right. So we discussed those earlier. MKCC on day 2. I think that would be great if it was earlier in the week. And we should have the awards PR ready to hit the contributor site the day after contributor summit. Yeah, I had this note as well. Let's see. It'd be really nice to have actual list of KCF staff say somewhere other than in the issue. Yeah, that's a good point. That was tough to manage, especially for like figuring out the swag and stuff.
Yeah, well, and particularly having it as an issue meant that, you know, if we swapped out shadows, I couldn't go in and edit it. I had to send you a Slack message to ask you to edit it. So
yeah, and I think that's okay because I like it being there, so that people have something they can reference, like when they're talking to like their leadership or whoever about what they did.
Right, but I'm saying we should have an
additional place. Yeah.
No, we should have a doc saved.
Yeah.
In the repo instead of an issue. The same way they do for the release team.
I see.
So a doc, not an issue.
I understand.
Yeah.
Like a markdown file.
Yep.
I think I do like that, but I think starting with the issue first is easier to share out to actually get stuff. And then once stuff is generally defined, then it moves to that doc as well.
Yeah.
And if we have a website lead, that becomes much easier.
All right, that goes in the website lead playbook. All right, we're at time. But if you have a couple minutes, I will try to burn through the rest of these. All right, help wanted shout outs need to be more formalized and actionable. Yes. Consider having a designated area for the hallway track. Yes, where the coffee is. Ask for half the breakout rooms to be arranged in rounds or discussion layout. Okay, but then we'll have to like maybe ask folks what layout they prefer, you know. We could improve the contributor award stocks with some basic intro to Inkscape content. Be good to have a guide of basics available to this lead.
Sorry, can I mention on the help wanted shout outs? Can we assign that to a current lead right now so that it is formalized under someone? Would it be comms or content? I don't know.
I think it would fit better under content.
Okay, and then we can, for example, have a shadow that just does just that as an example.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. All right, and then SIG etcd will take a while to get established. But before that, we need a list of etcd contributors.
I don't actually think that's going to be a problem. I think we can have, you can have the SIG etcd contributors merged in as org members for Paris, because half of them are org members already. I don't think it's going to be a problem for Paris.
Yeah, like there's a PR to add them to into K.org. Like it should all be good. Like theoretically by Paris.
All right. LOL at this one, whoever tacked that in at the bottom.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's
I don't disagree.
Single retro we've ever done has ended like this, where we're rushing through the end of it.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it needs to be scheduled for 60 minutes, but actually blocked out for 90. Because it was scheduled for 90 minutes, then it's going to be 100 minutes.
Yeah.
Fair.
All right. And then more required follow-up after the summit ends, handbook jam, etc. We have historically been lax about this, but the buck stops here. No, we'll coordinate in the channel about when we're doing the handbook jam, and then like leaving it to Arnaud and Xander to kick off the planning for the summit.
Yeah. And I think we should also do one thing, and let me add this, that we've talked about with other KCSs, which is once Arnaud and Xander get their team together, that, sometime in January, we should have a meeting with as many of the leads from this KCS as possible with their team to just do a brain meld. Because I'll tell you, for a lot of things that were missed, etc., for this KCS, they were things that actually came up in previous KCSs. And because like, well, for example, the bell. I went and looked at the last retro, it was in there.
Yeah. All right. So, well, the handbook jam, the playbook jam will be helpful for adding a lot of the stuff in.
Yeah.
And then we can have like a formal meeting of I was once in your position. Here's what I learned. All right. Thanks, y'all.
But I do want to say, good job, everybody. We just finished up by going over the things that were wrong, things we want to change, etc. But I want to say, overall, it was a great contributor summit.
Yeah.
I mean, a huge amount of involvement and people doing stuff, and people felt good about it, and they came out of it like ready to do more work on Kubernetes.
Quick thing before I forget.
Yeah.
Has anyone set up a post-attendee survey?
Oh
no, and that's a major miss. Okay, Nigel, you and I can try to hack this out as quickly as possible.
Can get that out.
Sorry, like okay. I literally just like thought, like, I'm like shit.
That's an issue every time.
So we should assign that now to someone as like what lead? Is it the overall lead, a comms lead? Who does that?
Yeah, it might be in my playbook.
It should probably be the overall leads. Because
I mean, and this is something I thought about earlier, but we just didn't get it done with everything else. Is it really should be prepared before the KCS itself, so
Yeah.
that we can have QR codes out and people can be filling it out during KubeCon if they want to.
If
Okay.
you want to share the link or whatever with me, then I can actually send it out as a post attendee email
Cool.
through Cvent, and that'll go out to all registered attendees.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, I'll see the
and
squirrel.
it could give people something to do if they are mysteriously bored at the social. Sitting around a table going, I don't know, what did you think? Could
Well,
actually be good feedback.
one thing that we used to do in OSCON that I would be willing to do, which is to say, you know, if we actually have the survey available before the KCS, right, and it's a short survey that people can fill out on their phone, which we want it to be anyway, then I can do a random draw at the social, and someone who has filled it out by the social will get a prize. And if we let people know that in the opening session, then people might be a little bit better about filling it out.
Yeah. Yes, let's further bribe our attendees to give us
Mhm.
feedback. All right. Sounds good. Thank you all for staying over extra. Thank you all for being an awesome team. I will work in the channel to set up probably after Thanksgiving, the playbook, handbook jam, runbook jam.
Mhm.
And then we'll go from there.
Mhm.
All right, folks, take care.